Welcome to Aging with Pride, the joys and WTFs about aging queerly. We're your hosts, Wendy and Debbie, and we're serving up a hot cup of wisdom with a splash of humor on the side. Think of us as your guides through the wilderness of aging queerly. So settle in and join us for episodes that prove that the best chapters of your life might just be the ones that you're writing now. Not money. We need it. We worry about it. We try not to let it define us. But let's be honest, it really has shaped a lot of our lives. Learning more about it and how to make it work for us and our families is really important. So we're diving into all of it today. Retirement, Social Security, healthcare, estate planning, chosen family, trans identity, documentation, and what to do if you didn't follow the traditional financial path. Well, because most of us didn't.
Stay tuned because this is the episode.
This is it.
We are very excited to introduce you to our guest today. Wealth of information. Get it? A wealth of information.
I like what you did there. I love what you did there.
So our guest today is Brynna Wilson, and Brynna is the founder of Citrine and Gold. And Citrine and Gold is a financial services firm really reimagining the industry with a mission to close the wealth gap. As a queer woman-owned independent firm, they really believe in the importance of ethical, transparent, and client-focused financial advising as a catalyst for positive change. They use the power of inclusive financial strategies to build wealth gaps and build stronger, more resilient communities, particularly in our community, the LGBTQIA+ community. So welcome, Brynna. We're very excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I love this conversation. It's my passion, and I love talking with LGBTQ plus individuals.
I know, and we're just grateful that you took the time to join us. So it feels like we're talking about money, that a fair start would be to put you in the hot seat, so to speak. And how did you get into this industry? What interested you? And then my follow-up question to you is, if you choose to share, what were your money habits like when you were younger?
Oh boy, let's start with the good one.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll save my money habits after I explain what I went through to get into this industry. So I've been in the industry for 8 years now. To be honest, when someone presented me the opportunity to become a financial advisor, at that time, it was originally to sell life insurance. And I thought, no way. I do not fit in with that crowd at all. I just didn't see anyone that looked like me. And don't get me wrong, I'm very privileged. However, there were not very many women in the industry. There especially are not very many LGBTQ plus individuals in the community. And I also identify as non-binary as well. So I use she, they pronouns, and that's very rare in the industry. Yes. And I hope that it becomes less and less rare as we move forward and get more people. So, but after I realized, I thought about it when my friend introduced me to the opportunity, and I realized, wow, I really like money. Yeah. I mean, we all don't want to say it because we're like, I'm scared. I don't want to say I like money because then people think that you're a snob or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, I don't want to work my entire life. I want to be able to retire early. I also realize that I really want to spend time with my people. And in order to spend time with my people, I have to have that freedom, that independence. And while it's not at the end of the day about money, it's about the lifestyle that you want, right? Money helps with that lifestyle. And it's one place that I can create an impact for people, especially within the community, because it's something everyone handles. And this leads into my younger self and the habits I had. I grew up in Denver. I grew up in Lakewood, actually. And my family had a restaurant that was well known in Lakewood for many years. So quite a few people knew who I was. And at that time, as a kid, you're like, ooh, I don't want to be the wealthy kid. I don't want to be the kid that has the money that other people think that we have. I would try and get rid of my money as fast as possible.
Interesting. How did you do that as a kid? What did that look like?
I mean, what it ended up being was that I would start spending money on other people. It was instilled in me at that time by your siblings' presents on their birthday, Christmas, but I would overspend because at the time I didn't realize I was just being really nice. But looking back as an adult, I realized, I was being extra nice to them, but not to myself.
And so curious to know, did your family talk about money? did you openly and honestly, which I don't know how old you are, but I'm 57 and Wendy's 54. And my parents, that was one of the off limit topics. We didn't talk about money, religion, sex, really anything of any substance. We just didn't. That's how my parents were raised. So in your family, was money talked about?
Yeah, great question. It was talked about to the extent of this is how you balance your checkbook. I'm 38. Back in the day, I had a checkbook. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And so, I don't have as much experience as you all in that area of what not talking about money, but we talked about it to the extent of how to manage it. The way someone manages it doesn't mean it's the right way for you. So we talked about how to kind of manage money, how to balance your checkbook, how to get a credit card, those kinds of things. But when it came to your values, when you're spending your money, when it came to how to actually make money work for me rather than just do the logical next step. And I think that kind of relates to me as a queer person and in the LGBTQ community. We don't always do the next logical step because we're not allowed to.
Right.
And we've had to skirt around things. So just realizing that the way my parents did it wasn't necessarily the right way for me.
I'm very curious to know, when you're working with individuals as well as, perhaps couples, communication is huge, right? Any of these topics that those of us were raised not talking about, when we have to talk about it, sometimes we don't have the skill set. And there can be so much shame around money, how we have managed it or not managed it or what have you. So do you find when people come in that you're really trying to help them overcome those communication barriers?
Absolutely. Caveat, I am not a therapist. However,
either are we, but look what we're trying to do. So
right.
It's all good.
There we go. Sometimes therapy is just finding the right people to talk to, and talk through things. So I've had a number of clients that after they leave my office, they're like, thanks for the therapy appointment today, because money is while everyone thinks it's a logical subject, it's actually a very emotional subject.
Oh, yeah.
We put a lot of weight behind money. Instead of it being a tool, it means we're either good or bad, whether we have it, we don't have, where we spend it, what's going on with it, right?
Well, and we live in a culture where money it's an identifier. It's looped into your identity, or what we perceive to be our identity, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's something that I hear a lot from LGBTQ folks, especially, is that capitalism is bad. And while I agree, I don't think that it's necessarily that capitalism is bad. It's the way that people are using capitalism that makes it bad. It's the same way as me using my money in the wrong places. It's a tool. So especially in the LGBTQ community, where we feel like we have to be different, we have to find new ways of doing things, it's really important to be creative, and it's also important to still play the game. We can't just sit on the sidelines and let everyone else have the money.
Absolutely. Hallelujah there.
Yeah.
Comprehend it if you can't make it relatable to something else. I'm curious, what were your mindsets like as children when it came to money?
Well, we didn't really talk about it. So my parents did the very traditional thing. Here's a checkbook. Here's how you balance it. But there was no conversation on really how you use it, which led me to have really reckless spending habits and really I didn't have an awareness of budgeting, or even though my parents, I think, had excellent money habits, I think they were still kind of caught in that we don't really talk about it. So, that one quick, here's a checkbook, that's not a money conversation. That's a tool within a bigger money conversation. So it took me a long time and a lot of painful experiences before I started to go, oh, okay, I get it. I'm going to take control of it, and I'm going to really understand it to the best of my ability. I've always been somebody who's like, that's not my lane of expertise. So while I am interested and I want to learn about it, I rely on other people like yourself. That's your lane of expertise. So I'm a big believer in you pull in people into your circle who can help you with the things that you don't necessarily know about.
Absolutely.
You're
doing the right thing.
Thank you.
I grew up in my family. We didn't have money. We grew up on hand-me-downs and Spam. And
let me just say hand-me-downs. I grew up on hand-me-downs. I'm 5'10" and my sister is 5'1", and I grew up on her hand-me-downs. I am still suffering the trauma of wearing those.
Please tell me you learned how to sew.
I did. See, that's another thing. I didn't know how to sew. I just wore pants that were pants on her, but really up to my knees.
This explains your distaste for shorts.
I don't like shorts. That's probably why all the pants I got were really shorts on me, but they were pants on my sister.
And we definitely didn't talk about money. I know my parents struggled our whole lives. And then when I went to college, my grandfather had saved, a college fund, a little bit of spending money to get books and, the things for all the grandkids. And I was handed $1,000 and I had to go open a checking account, and I had no schools or skills with that. Right. And I didn't have a credit card for a very long time after that.
And you were lucky. You got a scholarship to college.
I did get a scholarship.
Anybody who gets a scholarship to college is lucky, right? Like that's a really big gift to receive, right? Or earned, I should say. So I'm curious to know, because this is about, it's aging with pride. And a lot of the people who watch us, they're over 40, I would say probably middle to late 40s. How do you help people who maybe come in, maybe they're in their and they say to you, we feel unprepared for retirement, whatever that means, whatever their entire retirement vision looks like. And they say, we didn't know what we were doing in our 20s and barely our 30s, and then in our 40s, and then maybe life came up and we had to change focus. I'm guessing that you have clients who come in. What are some things that you tell them, or what's some advice for people who feel like, I'm never going to be able to retire?
Yeah. Well, it's a hard conversation, obviously, because I'm not a magician. I can't just make it better for people. The best thing that we can do is just be honest with ourselves, quite frankly, because sometimes if we think it's really bad, it's actually not as bad as we think it is for some of us. Some of us over exaggerate and it's better than what it is. So you need to make sure that you're really being honest with yourself about where you're at. Because as soon as you figure out where you're at, you can actually start making changes. It's really easy to be like, well, I don't know, I think I'm okay, and not do anything about it. But by talking with a financial advisor, they would be able to help you, someone like myself, figure out, okay, how close are you to retirement? How many more years do you have? And here's a really big thing too, a couple big things. Number one, a lot of people don't know what retirement is for them.
Great point.
So, I hear a lot, right? You should have $1 million in your account before you retire, which I understand where that comes from. And yes, it's a good starting point to understand roughly how much you need. But at the same time, my way of retiring is going to be completely different than the way you retire, Debbie, and you retire, Wendy, even though maybe you retire together. I don't know. But what you want out of retirement is going to be very different. So it's very important to decide, what is retirement for me?
I love that, because I found when I was working with my financial person, the hardest part of that was me doing the work before actually digging deep. I kind of had this unrealistic notion like, well, tell me what to do and I'll do it. And he said, yeah, that's not how this is going to work. And so, there were assignments and there was sitting down and really going through everything. And what you just said, learning my spending habits, learning and really coming up with what is my vision for retirement, what that could look like. And then he can help say, okay, now we can talk about where we're at and how we're going to get there. But it was a little bit of an uncomfortable process for me. I'm not going to lie about it. It was a little awkward. And there was some stuff, right, that I had to work through, right? Being that it's a vulnerable experience.
And it's so hard to talk about that, even with experts who are there to help you navigate it, because we grew up not talking about it. And there's shame about it when we do talk about it. I can tell you exactly what my retirement's going to look like. I'm going to be performing in retirement centers and over 55 communities until 98.
But babe,
I'm in.
I know.
Where are you going to be? Okay. I will sign up early.
Exactly.
So you guys bring your $1 million 401k that you saved up in dollar bills, because I'm going to have the tip jar out.
But here's the thing. If that gets you access or gets us access to a place in 55 and over, then there's a little bit of a barter system that can really be useful.
Look at you imagining your retirement right here, right now.
But
that's part of it too, is that a lot of people forget, well, we get busy with life, right? And yes, we want to understand our money, but it's also a lot of that shame, like Wendy, you mentioned, just not knowing what to talk about and being worried about sharing it with this almost stranger. You find the right advisor and you build the relationship with them, but you still have to start very vulnerable, and it can be difficult. So I recommend that you start with either a partner or a friend that you really trust to start having those conversations. And it could just be as little as like, oh, I'm looking to go travel somewhere and it's going to cost me $5,000. Even just saying that can help you to alleviate the stress of, I can't say numbers. A lot of people come to my office and they start sharing and they're like, please don't judge me. You know, I am someone that, trust me, I cannot judge you. I've done plenty with my money. Like you, Debbie, my first girlfriend threw me for a loop and I spent way too much money on my first relationship. Anybody done that before?
Yeah.
No judgment here. I've done it all. I've been in credit card debt too. You just have to realize that, one, if you're working with a financial advisor, they have heard it all. And a big reason why I'm in this industry is because I actually needed to learn it for myself so that I could teach other people how to do it. And if I have problems with money and I'm in the industry, no wonder other people don't really understand it. I even can't figure out some of the acronyms sometimes when I learn something new. So it is a huge piece of it, of just letting yourself know, you know what, nobody taught me. And I was 20 years old. I was just trying to survive.
Yeah. Big time. Big time.
Talk about like in your industry and how being a member of the LGBTQ plus community is impacted and different for our community. How is it different?
Well, I mean, as you know, our administration is changing things. There have been a number of government entities that no longer allow pronouns. That's a very foundational piece for a lot of my clients and for myself as well. My spouse is gender fluid. So we just want to make sure that we have representation there. When it comes to the industry, a couple things. First of all, finding an advisor that kind of understands what you're going through is really helpful. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of LGBTQ plus folks, but there are people around. You just kind of have to find them. But the other thing is really getting honest with yourself so that when the advisor asks the questions, you can be honest with them and see how they respond. Because then you can identify, are we going to match in our personalities, in our characteristics, in our values? Ask the advisor what their values are when it comes to the investments and how they invest, because you want to find someone that understands you so that you feel like you can move forward rather than this person doesn't have any understanding of what I went through.
Yeah.
As a LGBTQ plus.
So that's really useful information. And we've had conversations. We were both, and I am going to guess that this is not uncommon for couples who find their way to each other later in life, right? Like we've had really unpleasant experiences with partners, right? And money. And maybe there's been real estate, maybe there's been big purchases. And so we kind of came to the conversation feeling pretty tender and I maybe even a little defensive, right? Like, no way, this is never going to happen again. This is how we're going to do it. And I think we've softened in our conversations about that. But one thing that we're always talking about is how do we protect each other? How do we protect ourselves individually and each other? So when it comes to estate planning, when it comes to a marriage certificate, right? Many people who are not legally married, we've had conversations. Should we go to the courthouse in Colorado and get married? Because then it's a certificate, at least in Colorado, when they overturn it at the federal level, right? There's a lot of unknowns. And I think for us, we feel like that's great. And it could help maybe in Colorado, but are there certain documents that you would recommend to your clients? Have these documents. It doesn't matter if you're married or not, right? Courts recognize these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, another caveat, I always have to do these, but I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, fair. Either are we, but look what we're doing. No,
look at what we're doing. Here we go. So number one, make sure that your beneficiary is updated to your most recent person. A lot of us forget.
I'm sorry.
That's amazing.
When you said that.
I mean, how quickly can we U-Haul? Let's talk about it.
I just had a flash.
Just for the record, we have not U-Hauled yet.
We have not U-Hauled. People don't know that, but it's true. But when you said that, I had a flash, like a literal flash, and then started to sweat of people who, you know, at one point in my life were my beneficiary, but imagine how terrifying it would be if they were still beneficiary. So thank you for saying
Absolutely.
that.
I mean, that's the best way to take care of your people is to make sure that you have the right names as beneficiaries under all of your accounts. And that's really important. And the next step is that you would want some sort of legal documentation, highly recommend an estate planner. You can do it online also. But a big thing people think about is, oh, I don't need a will. I don't really have that much stuff, right? Okay, maybe you don't. However, do you have a power of attorney if you have some sort of medical issue? Do you have someone that you can rely on to make good decisions for you financially if you can no longer make those decisions? You need a financial power of attorney, those kinds of things. So, if I understand the law correctly, and again, this is just from the top of my head, that, if you're married, it automatically goes to your spouse, right? But if you're not married, we need to make sure that it goes to the right people. It might be your closest living relative, and you might not like them. Or more importantly, it might be that they don't like you, right? Because that happens in our world. Yeah. So just making sure that you have the right beneficiary on there, you have the right powers of attorneys are really, really important when it comes to same sex or, LGBTQ plus people.
Yeah. And it's sad because what feels stable in one administration feels completely unstable in the next administration. And so we know that these documents are standard documents that seem like they would stand up in a court of law. It's just, this is who you decided would be this person to manage the things if you need to and make medical decisions. We talk about that because Wendy's from Texas. And if we were to travel to Texas and something happened to her and she ended up in a hospital, or something happened to me, would we have those rights to protect each other and be each other's person?
It's almost as if you have to have all of it covered.
Yeah.
Get married and get all your documents if you haven't been married. Wow.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. And you could even think about a prenup. I mean, people kind of laugh at prenups because you think that you have so much money. But what it really is making sure that when you come together, if you get divorced, then what happens with all of your finances? Who gets what, right? So it's really just making sure that when you come into it, that you're just going to leave with about roughly the same amount that you came into it. If I have a home and I come into it and we have a prenup, I get to leave with the home if we divorce. It's not that I say, oh, you can't have any of my things. It's just that, if this doesn't work out, this is what I brought to the table for the team.
One of the conversations that we've had is, when we move in together, what should that look like, right? How do we combine? What money is appropriate to combine? How do we keep our autonomy with money? Because we've all learned lessons along the way. Do you see, and I know every couple is different, but in your experience, are there certain suggestions that you make that seem to be pretty successful when it comes to merging financial lives?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I've seen most often is that couples nowadays have one joint account, and they each contribute to that joint account to help pay for whatever the family needs, whether that be your mortgage, your rent, your groceries, pets, kids, whatever that might be. And then keeping the other accounts separate, because it does give you still some autonomy, and at the same time you are sharing some finances within the family. So that can work for a lot of people. But when it comes to merging finances, I think what people don't do a great job of is just sharing what their expectations are for the partner, because we all have expectations, but do we say them out loud often? No, not usually. So having that conversations around, okay, I'm expecting you to put $1,000 a month into our joint account is very, very important. And agreeing to that and making sure that both parties agree. And the other thing people forget is that things can change. And so you can always update your commitments and your conversations. And I don't mean commitments necessarily, don't break up, let's not do that. But committing to, I'm putting this amount in the joint account, or I'm committing to, I pay for these things, you pay for those things, whatever it might be. If it doesn't work anymore, that's okay. You want to update that conversation, and you want to do it at least on a regular basis so that you don't come to that conversation already feeling stressed and anxious. If it's a consistent conversation, you can talk about it more easily. You're practicing, you're learning how to interact with each other about money and about finances specifically.
Yeah, because I feel like when you don't have those conversations, those small resentments start to build, and then they become wildly out of control, which they probably could have been avoided early on by saying, and we've actually talked about this, well, what do you think is a reasonable amount to spend at the grocery store? Like, but we're lucky in that we're in alignment. We don't really go out to dinner a lot. So that's not a value for us. But for some couples or in a coupleship, if one person wants to go out to eat 5 nights a week and the other person doesn't, well, there's a financial, imbalance there that needs to be discussed, where ours is like, well, I mean, okay, what are you going to buy? How many cases of Spindrift are you going to buy? Because that's exciting.
I say buy them all.
Buy them all.
Buy them all.
If they're on sale, buy them all.
Especially if you're at Costco, you might as well just grab everything.
Exactly.
Okay, that is a great topic of conversation. We can go there. Costco membership.
Great.
I mean, talk about saving money.
Yes, and Costco's now even moved up higher on the list.
And going into Costco is a hazard unto itself. You have to.
That's really what the conversation should be about. It's not how much we're going to spend on groceries. It's how much you're going to spend at Costco.
This earphone isn't working as well as the other one. I can't hear you.
Lots of issues with that headphone tonight.
Lots of issues.
How about as we age and caring for all of the things as we age that we have to think about, not even only our long-term care, but our long-term care for our parents and or our, chosen family, our children, all of those things as we move into
there's
better
years is what they say. Do you feel like you're getting better years as you're getting older?
Depends on the day.
Absolutely.
Well, so when it comes to number one, I do want to say that this can be a touchy subject because for myself, I'm not having kids. So immediately I'm like, oh no, who's going to take care of me when I'm older? So I have to plan for that.
Fair.
And it's a difficult subject for a lot of people because maybe they don't get to take care of their parents because there's not a good relationship there. And they don't actually get to see what happens. It's really hard to understand when you get older and what happens unless you see it, you experience it, you know someone. But unfortunately, we age. It's just a fact. So we do have to plan for what's going to happen when we can no longer take care of ourselves. And so that's either money, where you pay someone to do it, or you have to have a plan of, okay, my niece is going to take care of me, or my partner will until they can't, or I have friends, I have family members, those kinds of things. But you also want to make sure that you have that conversation with them early, because not everyone wants that role of taking care of an older person. It can be difficult for some people to manage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of talk about control. I just know with my dad, as he aged and moved into a different form of care, they're struggling with it. Not always, and then you're trying to help them with their emotions. And it's an emotionally challenging situation. Just to see your parents age. Your own mortality comes into view closer than you would like. It's hard because people who you love dearly, your parents, if you have that kind of relationship. And then when you add money on top of it, well, it just adds so much to that conversation.
Don't take anything from this podcast. The point is, have a plan. Because you need to talk about these things before they happen. That is going from surviving, I just got to get through today, to thriving of I'm thinking ahead, right? And so we're talking about us getting older, our parents getting older, taking care of people, whether that be in older age or even just because our community still needs help. We still have a lot of people that need help in certain areas. And we're really good as a community, and I'm seeing it more and more of us all coming together, right? And helping each other out, which is fantastic. But it's really hard to help someone if you don't know what they need, what they want, and what their plan is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to make decisions for people without what they want. So exactly. The whole point of a will, the whole point of a power of attorney, the whole point of talking about how you're going to merge finances, all of that, it's just having the conversation is the most important piece.
A time right now, especially politically, where so many of us feel out of control, right? We don't know what's going to happen. That feels like a way to take back some control. You're getting to have the conversation. You're making decisions. You're putting systems in place to protect yourself and the people you love. And to me, that's the most beautiful way to say, yeah, this administration does not have our best interest at heart. So we're going to take that power and do the right thing for our people that we love.
And this is not
really
the first,
well said.
it's not the first time we've lived in an era where our rights weren't recognized, where you are having to go back 20 years and 30 years and 40 years and put all of those things into place again.
Maybe you didn't do it right the first time. You get a second chance. And I will say that any political administration can make any changes. It's not just now. It could be 20 years from now. It could be 5 years from now. Whatever it might be, it's really important to realize that you do have control of some things. You don't have control of everything. And I get it. Systems need to change. But let's focus on what we can control. And that's mostly ourselves and how we talk to ourselves, what we do about it, how we control our finances, and then move forward from there. Because that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I love that.
Let's talk about, like, a lot of members of our community don't have family members, or if they've been shut out of that circle. And a lot of people have chosen family, right? And not legally recognized relationships, or how can they protect those relationships and financial support either way with chosen family?
Yeah, it's a great question. And trust me, I've built my chosen family as well, because you got to be around people that you like, and they push you, they challenge you, but they don't overdo it. So sometimes the biological family is not the answer. But I actually kind of think it's a benefit sometimes to have chosen family versus biological family, because you almost separate yourself from their ideals. So like for you, Wendy, if you didn't learn a lot about money and it wasn't managed well, and let's say you didn't have a good relationship with your family, you can actually drop those ideas because it's not something that's in your world. As they say, you are the sum of the 5 closest people to you, and who you surround yourself with is important. And that can include biological family, shockingly. Most people don't realize that. So you want to make sure that you find the people that are going to push you in the right direction, so that you don't have to listen to what they are doing that doesn't align with who you are and your values. So that's a great starting point for sure.
I love that.
Okay.
I also hear a lot of people who combine and they buy houses together as friends. Or one person buys a house and then they have a community and it's a house share. Those are some great ways to find some wealth in some way by banding together. Also, just having the conversation with your chosen family about, what are you doing? How's that working out for you? Do you have an advisor that you work with? What are you doing with your budgeting? Everyone does different things when it comes to budgeting. Some people love spreadsheets. So not everyone's a spreadsheet user, right? So you've got to find ways to make it work for you. And so by talking with other people that you like, that you enjoy spending time with, what if you two decided to do budgeting together, or 3 people? Hey, as a house, let's see if we can all help each other budget. Let's see if we can help each other figure this thing out. Or do you know someone that we could call because we don't understand? It all starts with being brave enough to ask, because quite frankly, a lot of us still don't know what's going on, and we're all doing our best.
Yeah. 100%.
How do you go about with your chosen family protecting those investments or anything that you may have, those joint ventures? Is there certain paperwork? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So find a lawyer and have it all in writing. It doesn't count unless it's in writing and signed. Okay. So that's your number one. Find a great lawyer. And then number 2 is, again, reminder, make sure that you update the beneficiary on something. Specifically, when it comes to houses, you can have it be tenants in common or joint tenants. So there are different ways of setting it up ahead of time, so that it moves to the right people, but just updating things. And then when it comes to chosen family and protecting them, when it comes to finances, it can be hard because they don't have the rights to certain things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But again, if you have something written down,
Okay.
then that's where it's going to stand up in court.
But it does seem like what I'm taking away from that is getting legal documents in place to protect your relationships. Because when you're sitting around with your friends, there's a lot of things that feel like a good idea. And then if those good ideas kind of turn out to not be great ideas, you want to protect that relationship first and foremost. And having legal documents that everybody agreed upon seems to be the best way to do that. But I do have a question for you. It's not cheap to hire a family planning attorney. Are there other ways that you think people can go? Or are there, what are some other avenues if they're like, we don't have the money that we need to have to get all these documents secured?
Absolutely. There's actually a lot of online places that you can go that are less expensive, and it still holds up in court. It might not be as thorough and customized to you. It's more of a template, but at least it's something. Just get something in writing that says who your next person is, so that if anyone asks, you have that. And then when you can get the funds at some point, you can make it more customizable to your particular situation.
Can we move to a new subject?
I'd love that.
We all know our trans community is under attack. And I know there's challenges financially with that, right? With documentation and identity. What kind of challenges do they face with identity documentation on all the financial components? And what does that path look like to being able to cover that?
Yeah, unfortunately, the financial industry has not kept up with the times. Some of the industry leaders are working on it, where they allow different pronouns than what you were born. Your markers can be different. However, it's unfortunate that we still have to go by legal names. So some people, some of my clients, we have to use their legal name as opposed to their preferred name. Unfortunately, I even just this week had to do a call with a client and we had to use their dead name because that's what was on their account, right? So I think it's just a lot of understanding that because the industry is so large, it's a very difficult thing to change quickly. So just as a reminder that it is changing slowly, right? And so it's not that it's not accepted. It's just that it's a slow change. But more specifically, it's really important to make sure that your documents are at least the same, even if it has your legal name as opposed to your preferred name. Making sure all of your accounts have the same name are really important so that there's no question that it's yours, especially if something changes. And then I unfortunately have even had clients that they're trans and they're looking at moving out of the country because of what's going on. So it's a lot of just exploring what your options are as far as finances go, whether that be here or in another country. But there are resources out there. It can be hard to find, but there are grants available for those that need them. Entrepreneurs, there's grants. But I think it comes back to the foundational pieces of finance, which are, and I call them foundation, not basics, because basics immediately makes me feel like I'm stupid if I don't know them. Right?
Yeah. Good point.
So when you talk to yourself and you don't know how to do something that seems basic, just say, well, it wasn't a foundation piece that I was taught.
I love that.
There's a crack in my foundation and I'm going to patch it right now.
That's a great, yeah.
It's a lot about how we talk to each other. So for those trans folks, I really want to emphasize that you go back to your foundations and make sure that your understanding of how much money you have, where your money's going, what it looks like from an efficiency standpoint. But that's where talking to someone like myself can really help, because as a human, we're emotional, and there's a lot of emotional things happening right now. So having a third party, even if it's not an advisor, even if it's your best friend, saying like, okay, you don't need to worry about that. I see that you have this, can be really helpful so that you're not as nervous about what's going on. Because again, we have control over ourselves, not over what's happening. It's really important to keep that in mind as you're trying to figure things out.
Talk about on the flip side, if somebody's listening and they're in charge of a financial institute or somebody in the financial industry, what can they do to better serve those trans clients and make it a more smoother experience for them?
I love that you're asking this, because it's really important for those allies out there and people that don't really have the experience. Is number one, call the person by their name, their preferred name. It's whether it's a nickname or a legal name or whatever, just call them by the name that they prefer. So I always say, when I start my calls, I try to ask, what pronouns do you prefer? And then also, does your legal name match your preferred name? You don't have to put any weight behind how you're asking it. It's just a matter of fact, right? Does this match? Does your driver's license name match the name that you prefer or that you use? I shouldn't say prefer, that you use, that is your name. And then really it comes down to the advisor being that middle person, or whoever you're working with, the lawyer, being the middle person and using the right pronouns, using the right names, but having the understanding that for legal reasons, we have to go this way, and explaining that to the person. It's not about you. It's just unfortunate an outdated system. Mm-hmm. This is not about you, but I know that this is your name and these are your pronouns. Mm-hmm. That's all. As simple as that. That will make someone feel seen and heard, from what I know. And that makes me feel seen and heard.
Sure.
When someone uses my name properly. And I'm shocked when someone says my name correctly. So I can only imagine what it would be like to have a dead name used on you.
Yeah. That's great advice. For those in the community who want to make a difference in the community through financial giving, and I know a lot of people say, well, I don't make enough money to give anything, or I don't make, to have an impact. And I don't believe that. I mean, I work in fundraising. And so I think impacts happen small, every dollar builds upon the next dollar. And that's how we get to huge impacts and giving. Is there advice that you have for how can people really support causes they care about through strategic giving, right? Whether it's through,
Well, so giving can be a difficult subject because there's a gift tax. If you give someone more than $15,000 within the calendar year, and you have to pay a tax. Yeah. But when it comes to helping out those in the community, number one, as an entrepreneur myself, it's really important to pay people what they ask and not ask for a discount. That is the number one way you can help anyone in the community, is pay the rate they're asking. They are probably in the back of their minds worried about asking that much.
Yes.
Quite frankly, anyways, just give them the money. That's the best way to help. That's not even a gift. That's a gift for yourself, because you get whatever the service or product that they're giving you. Number two, there are a lot of great organizations out there that you can gift to. Like, maybe you don't have enough to give to one person, but by giving to an organization that then can collect a lot of money and give it to the right people, that's going to be the next best way to do it. And by donating to a nonprofit, a charity, you would want to check with your accountant, but generally they are write-offs when it comes to your taxes. So that's another great way. It's giving and getting at the same time, because you get a tax write-off for those things.
And I would just add that if you want to give to a nonprofit, it's so important to research that nonprofit. There are a lot of them that, and we just did a post about this, that will slap a rainbow flag, a rainbow sticker, and say they support the community. And some nonprofits cause harm to our community, intentionally or unintentionally, but they can look like they are supporting the community. So I think whether it's giving to individuals or nonprofits, that research, like, do your due diligence, right? So you really know that the money you're giving is going to be used in the way that is most meaningful. I do have a question as we start to wrap up our time together. I want to know what advice you would give to your younger self, your individual single younger self. And then I'd love to know what advice you would give to your younger self who's entering a partnership.
Boy, this is a great question. Now I feel like I'm in therapy. So
Exactly.
Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
Advice I would give my younger self. At the end of the day, no one actually cares about what I'm doing, because I was so worried about, I won't be accepted. And, I struggled in my younger years with making friends to an extent. I wasn't being my true self for many of those years. So I think it's just important to remind myself that at the end of the day, it's about what I want, not what other people think I should have or what I feel like that they are saying I should have. Because if I had made decisions based off of trusting myself and my own boundaries and what it is that I truly wanted out of life, I would probably have more money today. And I paid that money to have the life experience that I now get to share with all of you. So, just realizing that you can make different moves, leave the past in the past is really important too. But for my younger self, it's really just understanding that it's not about the other people. It's really about myself at the end of the day.
Great advice. That's great.
What
financial advice would you give entering into, your younger self entering into a partnership?
Yeah,
don't.
Don't.
I think that this is really important. Number one is have really clear boundaries about what you will do. It's spending your money. And I think that really comes down to having a conversation with yourself and with your new partner around what their values are when it comes to finances and money. Is it about having the experience going out to dinner with friends? Because that can be lovely. You want to have that community. Or is it more about taking care of the home and updating it and being a homebody and nesting and things like that, right? Because if you don't have that conversation with your partner and if you don't have that conversation with yourself, for all of those individuals out there, you can absolutely make huge strides in your finances by just having a conversation with yourself around your values and what you truly want. And you can make better decisions from there for yourself and in the partnership as well.
Yeah, that's good. Good advice. I wish we would have had it 20 years ago.
And you had a question.
One last question. What does it mean to age with financial pride, even if all the numbers on the bottom line don't scream successful?
This is a great question. Yes. I think aging with pride financially, specifically. Number one, we have all made mistakes in our past. And yes, you should understand those mistakes because they get you to where you are. However, you're in a new space. No matter what your bottom line says, you can age with pride financially because you can make changes starting today. A lot of older LGBTQ folks, I have heard some people say, I didn't expect to live this long, which is a hard thing to hear, right? Like, I just didn't expect to live this long because I'm LGBTQ and look at what happens sometimes. So we kind of beat ourselves up about what we didn't do back then. Like, I haven't even started saving yet. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. It's going to get worse if you don't do anything. So we have to separate our younger selves, our past selves with our future selves. And really by doing that is just changing what you believe right now and what you believe you can do. So what that means is just having pride in yourself to start getting honest with yourself about finances, start understanding them, whatever that might be, talk with your friends, find an advisor, learn. There's so much information online. Be careful. It's not all accurate and it's not all good for just you and your situation, right? So it's good to have someone that understands it, but it just comes back to having pride in yourself and really understanding what is success for you, because it's not about the money. It's not about the money. It is, but the money gets you to the lifestyle that you want. So start thinking about that, what you want now, and start implementing small things now. If you don't have time to give, or if you don't have money to give your time. Help out the community by giving some time. Or if you just don't understand what's going on with your finances and you feel like you're never going to catch up, it's okay. I have so many people that feel that way, but doing something right now can make a huge difference in 10 years. We forget that 10 years is actually a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
At 54, 10 years feels like not very long. I just want to say that.
Well, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us and talking about this conversation. I know is so important to so many people, and not one that people maybe seek out, like because of the vulnerability and the shame and the inability to know how to communicate about it. So thank you so much. And we hope that you'll come back again and talk about more money.
I like that. More money.
More money.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here again. It was a really great conversation.
I loved it. I learned a lot. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Aging with Pride. Whether you are in your 40s or your 80s and beyond, we are here for every glorious chapter. Please Please find us on social media, YouTube, and wherever you stream your favorite podcasts at Aging with Pride Podcast as we keep the community conversation going. And remember, getting older isn't about fading away. It's about aging forward with pride. See you on the next episode.